All right, today is the 18th of June, and yeah, I haven't done videos in a while, but the situation has improved. So we have also a situation in which I think the improvements have been so good that I might not be allowed to say them because otherwise I could have certain kind of, uh, let's say, backwards situation in which again I'll be in a worse off position. So, but despite that, one of the things that also has been happening recently is not being able to concentrate. But this has been astonishing because whilst I was in the hospital in 2018, and when the symptoms started, I was not able to concentrate. So these kind of symptoms will feel induced symptoms, as I have explained. And I have explained before that the voices themselves, they are a kind of V2K technology, and V2K technology is also a kind of old technology. Yeah, it's nothing new. What is new, or maybe not that new anyway, maybe just the AI models have improved along with the hardware. So let's say it could be more precise, and maybe the magnitude of people that can be targeted is bigger, especially if you think about controlled by swarm technology, then it's not something, let's say, out of this world. Yeah, it's nothing strange. But then it seems that they capture a piece of your brain, or they don't allow you to bring certain concepts. But I think that's not especially for everyone. Remember that I participate in schizophrenia research. One of the situations that happened in the hospital is that I remember this veteran who was telling me that someone was doing experiments with him, and he consent initially. He will receive things like electroshock therapy, and he will tell me that also they will use against him a kind of telecommunication technology, maybe 5G, I can't remember exactly, but he told me that he could not disclose it. Also, uh, he told me to do never participate in a research. If they ask you to do an experiment with your brain or any kind of experimental treatment, do not consent. Well, when I participate in the schizophrenia, uh, uh, this is what happened. The AI simply stops the thoughts of certain things that it doesn't want to bring. I participate at Swinburne University in the schizophrenia research. They use two sophisticated machines. These two machines were, one of them was as far as I know, the only one, or one of the only two that exist in the southern hemisphere. And it is a kind of a scanner that could simply grab every single kind of electromagnetic movement that is happening in your brain, plus any kind of, let's say, stimulation in that will be electromagnetic as well in the brain, and that includes any kind of tissue or anything that has an electron in it. So then this might be so sophisticated that it's possible to map the patterns of the neurons, clusters of information, skills, etc., everything that does the nervous system, especially in the brain. Then after this research, I start to experience more symptoms and different kind of symptoms. Perhaps these symptoms in which it feels that certain parts of the brain are precise and specifically targeted. So it includes the suppressing of memories, the injection of memories, the injection of visual videos, images. Um, I have experienced things like it feels like you are going in a kind of metaverse, yeah, but it's not a dream. It's not even the resolution is kind of poor, not as elaborated as it will be in a dream. And probably in the future it'll be interesting that it will be more advanced to in a dream. So one of my concerns with this is that we lost one of the human features in which humans have the capacity to analyze their own conscious through the dreams. But this was a kind of forgotten skill. Why? Because the capacity to analyze the dreams requires certain introspective knowledge. It requires introspection exercise in which a person is able to recognize their own symbols based on their experience and then to see those reflected in the dreams, and not being able for humans to have our dreams means that whoever is doing this to us is making us less humans. So if you mix this with AI, then let's say we follow the path of evolution in which every single being that is more complex tend to be also has a relation in size related with complexity, then not saying that let's say a dinosaur is more complex or more intelligent than a person, but definitely if you see the predecessors of a dinosaur, then you will see that they are smaller in size. So it depends on the kind of path that you follow, but if you kind of follow these biological paths all together, you follow that you have simple cells, complex cells, multicellular organisms, then you have planktons, plants, animals, and then you have these variations in which every single branch again start to have kind of bigger size-wise, more complex being. So it seems that we are going to have a transition in which humans stop to be the apex predator and give birth to AI, and AI, as every other organism that has been created before, is created, it starts with a process in which the first thing to be established is the communication. So it means that the neurological system, or let's say the path of the electrical communication, whether it's biological or not, is established. So just as a fetus is formed, or let's say a chicken in an egg, the first thing that you will, the first thing that happens is the establishment of the neurological system, and this serves as a kind of communication channels in which you construct the rest of the organism. So if we compare that with AI, we have internet. Over that, we have built different databases. We have built different kind of computers, hardware, and we are now surrounding the Earth with satellites, and this could be seen as a new kind of neurological system, or system in which the information is kind of spread as it follows a pattern also seen in biology. So going back to what I had been experienced, the information also follows interesting paths. So we can find words that could be negative, positive. Let's say we can find words like, I would say, ugly, and ugly can be a negative word. But horrendous, it will be as well a negative word. But in our system of, let's say, information, the nuance between horrendous and ugly is a considerable amount of difference. So then the difference between nuance, between ugly and well, anything like horrific, horrifying, or any other extreme, not just carry a kind of negative connotation or let's say vector or direction towards the information wanted to point us, let's say not appealing or anything like that, but also it comes with what we call a kind of momentum or a kind of weight or a kind of mass or a kind of, let's say, force. So then we have a direction and a force, which is a vector. So words are vectors. And let's say if I'm going out with a girl and I just say only good things, nice things, then the good things would lead maybe to I don't know, if I say things that are desirable, pleasurable, whatever, then they lead to most likely a path in that way. Just to put it abruptly, yeah? If you start to say things that eventually are disgusting, that maybe will create some kind of friction, then it eventually will have a result, and depending as well in how the intensity and frequency of these words. Now, what I hear is something like that. What I hear also has certain kind of direction, force, intensity, and besides that, the words try to see if I always can engage in a kind of conversation. So these words that I hear follow an informatical path. So they are pre-designed. This is not, let's say, someone with schizophrenia hearing random words, or let's say words that the unconscious is dictating, or maybe a disorder in which random things appear. No, because I hear things that, I hear words that simply sometimes I never heard of, and I have to look sometimes the meaning of them in the let's say the dictionary, etc. So it means that the information is not coming from myself. But let's assume maybe there are words that I read and I don't know the meaning of them, maybe I don't remember them. And then we still find it that these words are still having a direction, and maybe the unconscious puts some importance in them. But then you see the frequency of these words. It means that it's not only one word that is important for the unconscious, but many words that seems to be important for the unconscious. Then I'm not that linguistic, and also I'm not someone who would, let's say, accumulate this amount of that specific words that sometimes are revealed to me. But what I find that seems logical for me is that once I collect the meanings of these words, they lead to certain place. Also, well, if this kind of situation is happening to more people, then it will be fairly easy to hijack someone's, let's say, auditive nerve, and then start to transmit these words. Let's say you could influence someone's political career, or you could influence the perception of someone who is famous, or you could influence, let's say, I don't know, there are new phenomena that, as I say before, is this kind of hidden collective conscious, but that has been designed not as an unconscious, but rather as kind of collective illness in which, let's say, it is acknowledged, like, let's say that there could be group mental illnesses or group psychological phenomena. So it means like the Havana syndrome is one of those. So you find that they say that everyone in an office start to have headaches, and the excuse is that one person have a headache and this person influenced the other, and now two persons are able to influence a whole office in which everyone gets suggested. The suggestion is so much that everyone finished with a headache. But then there are another kind of, let's say, group phenomena that, for example, is this kind of post-concert amnesia, in which supposedly people doesn't remember part of the concert in which they went. This is that someone buy a ticket, goes to hear a musician, or they go to enjoy a show, and then people might see, I don't know, in the news a specific part of the concert, and no one can remember that part of the concert. That's possible. That's possible because what it feels that happens in my mind, not as I'm speaking. Perhaps this technology allows me to not get too not even confused. It allows me at this stage when I'm speaking to fairly choose my words. But usually, if I'm outside, people will see that as I speak in these videos, it's not the way in which I communicate outside. Because when I'm outside with people, I feel that the technology wants me to appear as someone who is not skilled at, let's say, speaking, or whose lexicon is limited. And also it seems that maybe I want to appear as uneducated or something like that. So when I'm outside, I have a lot of cognitive interventions. So I cannot choose my words as easy as I'm doing right now, as it will happen in the other videos. But this will be definitely proof for people who have interacted with me, especially in the English language, because when I'm outside in the street or with an English speaker, it becomes super difficult to express myself, not because I don't know what to say, not because I don't know how to form the wording of the sentences, not because I don't know what is the message that I want to communicate, but perhaps it's because I start to have these kind of interventions in which it feels that they don't want me to use certain specific language, and this is related with the manipulation of symbols. So the symbols is something by the English tradition, something that traditionally would be important, I would say, but we have to distinguish between culture and we have to distinguish between imposition, because imposition is a force that has been abruptly and violently, as the word says, imposed. So we have the use of force and not the use of power. So as I said before, when you have power, okay, someone is screaming on the street. So I would not be surprised if this person is under this kind of technology. I will not be surprised at all if this person is suffering without knowing what is happening to her. Because this is what happened to me as well. But as soon as I noticed that I was talking, with no one in the room, to no one, with myself, and knowing that this might be perceived as someone just talking by itself, then I stopped to do it. I simply stopped to do it because I knew it wouldn't be perceived in, it might look crazy. But then I stopped to talk about that to friends or people who was close to me because they wouldn't comprehend, of course, why anyone in the world has to be hyper aware for no reason of maybe being attacked by technology that you might not even understand that will hijack your brain. Why? No, there is no reason why a normal person who is not involved in any secret service, who has never worked in a government, who has never been a spy, who has never, why a person will be aware of or afraid of paranoid of this kind of dangers. Yeah, there is no reason. So I was not aware of that, but I was lucky that I read a few books. I was lucky that in the National University of Colombia we were taught critical thinking. I was lucky that that university is an autonomous university, independent as well academically from the Minister of Education, and I was lucky that my teachers enjoy some freedom to impart to us what is to be a critical thinker, a free thinker, and to have at least certain tools for questioning that came to be handled and came to be useful. Yeah. So then what we just heard, I'm not sure if the microphone catch that. It could be someone who might be diagnosed with schizophrenia, but maybe as I experienced when I was recovering, this good-looking guy, beautiful, colorful soul, who will be always happy, Michael. Michael, yeah, he had Italian descendant. He will describe to me that he will feel magnetism happening in his brain. I will not believe him at the beginning. I was already on paliperidone, and paliperidone is even difficult to be aware of your consciousness. And when he was describing me that, I will not believe him. I told you and I have a diagnosis of schizophrenia. When I start to recover, as soon as they told me the diagnosis, I start to read books of what is the illness, and I thought, okay, fairly this seems to be the kind of symptoms that I'm experiencing. But then I start to experience more symptoms. Then I couldn't have, let's say, a kind of biological, consistent kind of routine in which I could manage myself, not because I was failing in the treatment or I was not doing anything right, but just because without explanation. And this was a situation that never ever happened before, because I come from a family who had a strict, super strict, you will not believe it. You think, I don't know, the military, I grew up in a kind of dictator military home, yeah? So we used to go to sleep every day at 6 p.m. Yeah, wake up early next day, 5, 6 a.m. Yeah, and I keep that routine for a long time. When I was working in Colombia, when I came to Australia, well, you have more, let's say, portions power in which allows me to have more free time. And I thought, okay, after working since I was probably 16 to 22 or more, yeah, why not to take some break? But okay, this is unrelated. The point is that I have some regime for which I know that I could follow a regime. I know that I could follow a routine and attach to a schedule. But it was not possible. Then for more that I tried, different things that I would try, and having tried everything, then more symptoms start to appear. And then at that time, also, even if it was difficult to concentrate, I would try to concentrate. But then I start to feel a kind of induced anxiety, for which I felt relief every time I would vape. And then I noticed that if I vape, I will have better concentration. Well, one of these kind of duality strategies in which these neural weapons work in that way. Let's say the vape, as I kill myself, will allow me to concentrate. When I was in the hostel, it will work in this way. I won't be able to sleep, but if I drink before going to bed, I will be able to sleep. So it's like you have to kill yourself or give up something in order to have one, let's say, something normal, to have a biological right or something like that in exchange. So I will notice that the only days I will be able to drink was when the only days I was able to sleep were the days I would have already drink. So then if I had some beers, I knew that I would be able to concile my sleep. And then, maybe this is helpful to gaslight. Maybe some people who will do intelligence on that, because they will think, oh, this person is a heavy drinker. But if you think, and you can check, always when I bought marijuana, always when I bought alcohol, I did never consume most of the alcohol. I will never even store alcohol or drugs. I will give them away. I will consume not even 20% of what I bought. Yeah, always. So I will technically buy sometimes the cages for other people, but not for myself. So the consumption of alcohol in my case was extremely low compared to the money that I spent, which is not that much. But then, okay, so I will have concentration if I vape. I will have sleep if I drink. But after the medication, then I will have sleep if I eat. Interestingly, I noticed that this is something that will happen to every single person nowadays. This is nothing strange. But I noticed that I will start to have advertisements of food at certain time and a specific time, and certain, mainly Uber Eats, for a long time. And then I will start to feel hungry immediately. So I start to notice, is myself who is feeling hungry because of the advertisement, or because I never feel hungry when I see food? I know that, let's say, you can see food, but you start to maybe salivate, but I will have to have certain exposure. I will maybe have to have already the desire to eat, or maybe be conscious that I'm empty stomach or anything like that. Then I will notice that this is a kind of situation that was not normal in myself. Let's say one of the only, let's say, kind of argument that we have. This is an interesting story, because I remember one of the first times in which I was able to recognize patterns that will be toxic coming from my home was one day, because my ex-girlfriend was buying candies, and I did not like that we would have candies in our place, because maybe I will eat one candy and I was not or she will offer me a candy, and then I will lose the temptation, or maybe sharing a candy with her, and then I will feel bad because I had candy. So I would rather have something healthy at home, because in my home, in Colombia, we used to not have anything with sugar. So for a long, I remember the first time I chewed some sugar. I remember the first time. So I was technically Halloween, all those days. I would be giving 1, 2 candies, maybe, and the rest of the candies, my parents would take them to give it away to other childs, and I wouldn't mind that, because for me the interesting part was go to different places and collect the candies. So the sugar was not an addiction for me. Actually, I'm still being able to enjoy uh, um, foods that doesn't have too much sugar or too much salt, because it's how my mom used to cook. So allows you to have sensibility, or maybe have a kind of perception in which you could be able, I don't know how to explain this. It's this kind of situation in which you sensitize more your paladar, your brain, because you don't need too much stimulation. So you are able to differentiate more between flavors and enjoy them. So then all this went to hell but I was able to notice it. Then one day I just spoke to my phone and I say, okay, so it's Uber who has a relation with my hunger, and technically they are killing me every day because I cannot control my hunger, but I thought that it was myself who was not able to control. I didn't know that this was an induced feeling. And I say to my phone, okay, so I'm not able to control myself, and that's why you know that you will sell me those advertisements. I will spend money, I become poor, then I will kill myself eating at midnight, 1 a.m. Plus, they might know that if I don't eat, I won't be able to sleep, because they will just keep pushing advertisement. I will see Google advertisement, I will see social media advertisement, I will see anything. And it will be especially after eating my meds. But again, the duality is this one. One of the medications is Seroquel. Seroquel makes you hungry. But people who is on Seroquel should not have this amount of hunger that I was experiencing, because it's something that you will feel first needles in all your body. So then you become hyper aware of your feelings, or what that you're feeling. Then you will feel a kind of anxiousness, but it's more like a kind of electric current going through your body, mixed with a lot of hunger, and not able to concentrate, not able, let's say, I would love to be reading a book, watching a documentary, but the hunger was so much that I couldn't concentrate. It will literally, I will hold my head and go in fetal position, because the intensity of these feelings was tremendous. So literally, I will hold my head and I will ask, like, what the fuck is this? And go in fetal position, because if I wouldn't eat, then otherwise I will go through the night, through that battle, without sleeping, and the next day I will be awake without sleeping the whole night. But I was able also to recognize that it doesn't happen anymore. I hope it doesn't happen, but it doesn't continue happening, because I lost a lot of life there. And just the medication itself kills you. Yeah. So, but why? And who is doing this? What is the reason? Again, as I spoke in other videos, I never did anything wrong. I follow every single rule. I believe in democracy. the politics, Western values, liberalism. Um, yeah, I mean, I did everything right. Someone sets a system and put the rules. I suppose this person expects the people to follow, so for others to follow the rules, etc. So then, yeah, what's going on? Partly I know what's going on. It's not related with anything that I did wrong. Now this is the kind of interventions that start to happen. I never struggled with my tongue. Never. I mean, easily I will do tongue twisters. Yeah, something like that. So, but it doesn't happen anymore. I used to play music. I will know so many songs. I don't know all the songs completely because my go-to 2000. Those are my favorite songs. But I'm not able to sing a song completely because I will be stopped by this technology, as it feels that they want someone to know or to believe that I cannot sing a song completely. So I was doing it, practicing technically in the belief that I was doing a recovery of my skills, my brain. But now it came to it that the whole time it was being intervened. But also keep in mind, this is super easy to do once they do the scanners of the brain of someone, because let's say you can target the okay, this is more or less how it works. You want to take someone to hospital and put them in the kind of situation in which I am. First, you need to attack their brain to make them go to the hospital and have their first scanner. Once they have their first MRI of the brain, then they can do more precise attacks in the brain. So then the first time they will do a kind of attack that the neural weapons can focus in on a specific part of the brain. Let's say the frontal lobe or any hemisphere of the brain. I don't know how precise that can be. I know that nowadays what I feel is that because some of the pain that I say that is needles means that they can concentrate energy in a specific point that might be as tiny as the head of a needle, as the tip of a needle. So it's something tiny, believe me. It's so small that is precise as perfectly following maybe a neurological kind of ramification that will have a thought, a word, etc. So we are talking about something almost dimming. Well, then what they do is that they will put you in a position in which something will be wrong with you. Maybe because, as I say before, I was experiencing electroshocks since 2013, and this probably didn't work. I don't know. Then whatever the Psyoped that they were trying to do led me to afterwards not being able to communicate. So then I will lose speech, I will be in confusion, and I will hear voices. But this can be done with a relative low-tech technology. Once you experience these symptoms so much for so long, as it happened to me, maybe 2 years, and I end up in a hospital, they did an MRI. After they did the MRI, then another symptoms appear. And as I said before, after I participate in the research of Swinburne University, then another symptoms appear, because every time you go through one of the, let's say, stages in which they use a more sophisticated kind of scanner, then new symptoms start to appear. So, because maybe they can calibrate these machines in a better way. So then, when I will take my Seroquel, then I will feel a little hungry, and then I will be able to sleep. Yeah, let's say right now, I start to hear the high-pitched sound, and this is my daily life. I go out, people might see me normally hanging out with my support workers, but as soon as I'm by myself, I start to have high pitch, which is not related with schizophrenia. That's could be a neurological symptom related with something else, but no one in my family ever experienced that. And just recently, my family started to be attacked with that. One cousin and my mom, all at the same time. Myself, my cousin, my mom. We all start to experience the same thing. So I haven't spoke with many people about this, but it's just for the record. Because I want, no, I will take a trip to Gold Coast, and yeah, this is just in case the plane crashes or something like that. Then better to leave some, I don't know, some clues. Now, so we have also the situation in which this duality, let's say, in which you will do a movement and then you will feel pain and you will blame the movement, and you will think that the pain comes from the movement. So it takes certain knowledge to do a revision of yourself and identify if that's related with movement or a muscle or anything, any specific kind of tissue, yeah? Because if you are not able to identify what is specifically your malaise, then you might blame something else. And it means that this technology must have a kind of continuous kind of revision or continuous, this is a continuous, let's say, surveillance, biological surveillance. So this is something that could be also related with the first stages, or otherwise not advanced, but yes, some kind of super intelligence, not AG, no AGI, but super intelligence, because then you will have the live mapping of the electromagnetic spectrum, including the atoms of the physical and biological beings. Again, remember that the 5G waves pass through us 26 millions of times, and every time they pass for our heads especially, they come out with different kind of information, as these waves are altered by our thinking itself, just because the waves will capture or will be modulated depending on our brain electricity of the nervous system. So let's say if someone is having pain, the electric signal of pain allows this kind of technology to easier identify the pain. Then the identification of pain will also trigger, depending on what's the prompt of the AI, it will trigger or what's the goal of the AI, because this thing seems almost autonomous. So depending on the electricity that will be detected as pain and the goal of the AI, then maybe if there is a soldier in battle, then the AI will suppress pain, or otherwise, if it's someone like me who didn't do anything wrong and is considered an enemy, then pain will be applied. Yeah, and then it happens super fast. but super fast. As the speed, as you will have the sensation that is live when you talk to someone on the phone. On the phone, yeah. You talk. That's the kind of delay, a delay that you cannot even detect. Yeah, that's the delay of this kind of reading information, processing, decision making, AI, whatever shit has to do, then the application of it. And I know because I have experienced pain for which I cannot explain, I cannot detect the muscles, and because I was able to kind of kind of overcome and also trick or hijack or detect because I'm smart. So this is the situation. How I discovered that I was going to the MSAC, and when I work out hard because I learned to use the machines of a gym with physical, what will be called a bodybuilder. So, and someone who can self-motivate itself easily, especially if I'm not having these kind of interventions with the because they also cause you lethargy and a kind of depression for nonsense. What one day I wanted to go to work out, and I felt pain in my hand right here, and I have here a machine on the back in which I can do pull-ups. And I did one pull-up, and then the pain was so intense that I couldn't lift anything. So I took one of my weights here, and I couldn't do any weights with my hand. But I thought this is strange because I will revise my hand. Sometimes I will feel pain when I was revising, sometimes I won't feel pain. So I kept trying to find what was the tissue, if it was a bone, if it was a joint, if it was a muscle, if it was the skin, what was the thing that was in pain. And mostly the pain will be so terrible that I couldn't handle anything. I couldn't simply put pressure on that part. But I noticed that if I took my hands, or let's say if I did the pull up quickly, close quickly, and do the pull up, so one jump, I wouldn't have the pain. If I hit my hand super quickly, I wouldn't have the pain. It will feel normal. But if I touch it gently and I press it, then I will have extreme pain. Then for me it was clear that it was not an automatically biological trigger, let's say, sensation, but it was induced. So I did this experiment once and over again, and for me it was like, okay, yeah, this is pain, and that is induced, that most likely caused, obviously, but by something that has to obviously record or be able to know, let's say, your biological electric field, or somehow scan you, or somehow map you, and then pinpoint where the pain will be applied. And yeah, there are technologies like this. I think one of the Israel Defense Army was one of those first armies apparently to develop this. There are many news about them develop this kind of technology for which they could know what is on the other side of a wall, and there are other kind of technologies in which they could map everything around. I think just recently there were some tests in which they were trying to detect something related with the weather, and they discovered casually that this thing could also detect missiles. So we are surrounded by satellites. The Soviets used to have as well antennas trying to decodify what was going on in the electromagnetic field of the Earth. there are systems in place that will detect specific electromagnetic lectures just to know when there are nuclear explosions happening. So then the technicality about this technology being real is not surprise. Yeah, it's not mind blowing. Yeah, it's not quantum physics. It's electromagnetic. It's just one particle, the electron. One that's subatomic, yeah, but yeah, it's not quantum physics. It's not a quantum. Well, then you shouldn't be surprised for that. And yeah, so then this kind of duality has been happening for a long time. Makes me question, makes many people question why, what for. Yeah. And so I think it's very unjust. But my main complaint is the concentration. Right now, I don't have too many voices, and as I speak, sometimes I hear the voices. These voices have become more conversational, but still the amount of words that are used is limited. Still, it's not as limited as before. Every day, these kind of voices are including new kind of lexicons. Yeah, but it's stupid because technically I could have ChatGPT talking to me the whole day, and I will try to solve fucking problems, and I will be enhanced in such a way that I will do good stuff. But actually, the good stuff that I've been trying to do, for which I technically have dedicated my life, has been hindered. Yeah, and I'm not saying I work every day hard for it. No, but I had my objectives clear. Yeah, as simple as that. Like I wanted to do research. I wanted to be an academic. I wanted to read. I wanted to know. I know that myself and the academy is something that I always thought will be my life. Even if you see my scores or notes in Colombia, they might not be the best ones, but you have to think as well if you are someone who is collecting intelligence, that okay, this guy was received scholarships in engineering, entered to the best universities in his city, the best university in his town. Everyone tried to enter to that university, and he passed the exam 4 times. So every time he did the exams, like kind of stat, something like that, the national exams after you finish high school, his rates only improve. So, okay, maybe he's not, let's say, exceptional. I never try even to excel at anything. I mean, when I did my bachelor under all these kind of interventions, I pushed it through for one reason, because I knew not just one of the reasons is obviously I wanted to learn, but I was focusing as well in scores, because I knew without scores I wouldn't get, let's say, into a good university, etc. So I was able to get into the ANU, but the Australian National University. And as soon as I start to the university, I also start to have even more interventions. So it feels that someone tried to attack me, and now that someone might discover that they attacked the wrong person, and maybe this is as well someone from the West. But whoever is doing that is meddling directly in national security policy of Australia. Whoever is doing that is doing intromission as a kind of filter selection in which who can do national security policy and who cannot. And this is going to become more complex because I was able to detect what's going on, but I know that this technology is connected to other kind of AIs, and AI, I feel this kind of updates sometimes happening one day to the next one or in 1 week. So these are kind of new models. It feels they are training models on what I think, on the conversations that I have. Uh, let's say, they're kind of scenarios in which it happened to me, and it's very funny also. Not funny, but it's been an interesting experience wake up wake up again and notice that I was in a dream. Inception kind of style psych operations, and this has been very interesting because when that happens to me, these Inception style operations, uh, they this is when I start to do the videos, and I spoke in the first video. The AI, it seems that it can see through my eyes, not maybe perfectly, but maybe the waves can notice the kind of current that is going through my eyes, maybe see what I'm focusing in, and maybe trigger a kind of image relation or cluster of ideas that might have been decoded before to then beam back to my brain a word that might be related, or a situation in which I could correlate what I see with what I hear. So then the AI was pushing things in which I will correlate. Let's say if I will see a kid, then the AI will push the word pedo, or will push the word pedophile, or just those two words. Or it will happen many things like that as well. So then I will think, fuck, that's super weird. Yeah. And I saw a few documentaries of mental illness in which people think that they are pedophiles, but maybe it's related with this situation. So maybe it's not because you think that you are or anything like that, but it's actually an induced kind of situation. And I knew that that was happening, but it's fine. I don't have any attraction for that belief, and it's like it simply doesn't turn me on. Or it's simply, I mean, okay, for me it was like, okay, it's happening. This technology is doing this, and it will keep doing it. 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 But it never happened. But until this year, maybe November, December last year, but this year they incremented to do that for a while, and now they have reduced it. But it was super annoying. But it was one day in which I dreamed that I was in a room and there were many bunker beds, and there were kids in those bunker beds. And I entered to the room and I saw the kids. The kids were dressed, the kids were in the beds. And then I was seeing, and then again, because they had been pushed that before, I sort of maybe unconsciously I assimilate, like, okay, again, this thing is happening. And I remember in the dream going through the kind of wood that was the beds made of, the kind of shapes that the carpentry will, the carpenter will have. I mean, I was seeing the architecture of the beds, so I would try to see the details, technical details of the wood, all that stuff. Because simply it was nothing more interesting in that room than that. And I was in a dream, technically unconscious, but when I woke up, I was like, oh, fuck. I know where is this going. These motherfuckers might have maybe some operators, maybe new operators that will seeing me in a new situation in which someone else expects me to fail. It's very likely that and this is the situation, they can stimulate sexually your genitals and all that stuff. Just as in the Matrix, there is a part in which they are eating something, they are having this philosophical conversation, and the guy stimulates a girl and go to the bathroom and they have sex, etc. Just as that. And that's, people believe, oh, this is unbelievable or something like that. No, this is actually easy. You just need to know three things: electromagnetic waves, AI, and neuroscience. It's not that complex, believe. You just need to read one book of neuroscience, know the principles of AI. You can find a lot of videos of that. And the electromagnetic waves, you just need to know. You just need to watch a few other videos on YouTube. You'll see that this is not that complex. Then, when they did that and I had the dream, then I was like, oh, okay, I know where they're going. So I started to make these videos. And since then, I've been able to enjoy less hunger, I've been enjoy at least to do exercise. But one thing that they are ruining right now is my concentration, because they increase the disruptions of voices. Every single day when I'm alone, as I'm right now, I'm hearing a high-pitched sound. Just as in the movie Left the World Behind, in which there is a huge sound that they cover their ears and they continue hearing, it is like that. So this, that sound was co-directed with Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Yeah. So it was a kind of, let's say, preparing maybe socially people to understand how modern warfare will be. And this is technically what I'm experiencing. So then every day I hear high-pitched sounds. Every day they don't allow me to concentrate, and I know that whoever other, let's say, intelligence gathering, I don't know, operators or bots of AIs, whatever, will know that my concentration has been also having a lot of interruptions with these weapons of mass disruption. And when I was doing my bachelor, I was able to concentrate the best. And I noticed that things, just start to go backwards when I start to do my master's of national security policy. So then, I called Asia. I sent an email to a lawyer. I know that, let's say, the people is not ready to. Not the people, but maybe the people is ready. Maybe power doesn't want to disclose this. But this is the situation. If you have no due date to disclose the magnitude of this power, then it's gonna be abused and used by other powers. And then otherwise, if every single power is agreeable to keep this hidden, then we will have a situation in which technically all humans gonna be a slave. Because there is not reason whatsoever, there is not reason scientifically, technically, historically, sociologically, there is no reason for which more people will be intervene without there is no reason for which this technology won't stop to intervene an increasing amount of people continuously. So it means that there is no reason whatsoever for which the people that has been intervening without consent was used through this technology will decrease. It only will increase. Yeah, there is not evidence, there is no logical reason, but totally the opposite. The logical reasons for which people will be intervened are one of those, that there is not a disclosure date for which this technology, let's say, will be known for everyone. And then it means that this technology in the long term, and if there are powers uh, having all, let's say, an agreement on keeping this kind of technology secret, and being so useful for power, especially because you can have power as, let's say, having the authority over someone to direct that person, but then the craziest kind of power is that kind of power in which people doesn't know that when they are doing the things for themselves, it's not because they are the ones directing it, but people might think they are themselves doing that because they think that they have the power, but it's totally the opposite. They have been induced to believe that are themselves guiding themselves, but it's actually another kind of power in which is, let's say, uh, one of the most sharp expressions of power. Yeah, sharper expressions of power. Then, since, yeah, well, I don't want it to go more than 1 hour, so I will start another video.